I am Hannah Drown with Cleveland.com. Been a reporter for about 8, 9 years, worked on a bunch of different projects over that time, but now working on the education beat, immersed in Almira Elementary School.
I am Cameron Fields. Yeah, I've been a reporter at Cleveland.com for 2 years. And yeah, I started as general assignment reporter, but now, yeah, I'm with Hannah on Cleveland's Promise. We've been doing that since Thanksgiving of last year.
Great. And could you guys kind of give me an overview of what the project is and what you're hoping to accomplish or cover with it, I guess?
Sure. Kim, do you want to take it?
For sure. Yeah. So with Cleveland's Promise, yeah, we're immersed at Almira Elementary School on the west side in the West Boulevard neighborhood. And we've been following a group of students that are now in the 5th grade. We started with them in the 4th grade, writing about the different challenges that they face, whether it be academically, socially, in their home lives as well, and how the school and the district too is helping them through their different challenges.
That's excellent. I noticed that well, we'll kind of go through some of the articles, but the first article that was kind of I found it kind of a smack in your face, and I think probably for a good reason it was chosen. But this article about the 2 girls who wake up and the police are at their parents' door. Maybe you could tell us what happened and what came once they got to school.
Sure. So, when that happened in real time, clearly all of this, we collected all the information, and now we're posting the articles that came from it. But it was a couple of months into us being at the school. So it was really during that time where we were starting to get really close to the students, starting to really care about them. But it was kind of the first really big event, big thing to transpire that we were there for. And, this little girl and her sister were 2 children that we'd already started to grow to really care about. So, it was emotional, it was tough, but I think what made it a lot easier, and what I think also made it a lot easier on the readers since the story came out, is seeing that support, seeing those procedures that are in place by the school and what they do to help children like Sophia and Bailey when they go through something like this. Because this is just one example that we happen to be around to document, but just one example of many times when that crisis intervention team had to be deployed.
Yeah, and maybe would be a good idea to kind of discuss how you guys have embedded, and like when you say this was a couple months into your being there, maybe you could give us an idea of like what your daily life is on this assignment and how you interact with the school and the kids.
Yeah, so it took a little bit of an adjustment. It was new for everyone. So kind of started out slow, just really, observing, going into the classroom. The teacher, Mrs. Lenahan, is fantastic, a fantastic woman, a fantastic teacher, but it was kind of an adjustment for all of us, because she isn't used to having 2 reporters in the back of her classroom typing up notes the entire time. I imagine that would be a little bit daunting for most people. But once we got to that point where we could help and actually be useful in the class versus just a distraction, that really started to help everyone. So when we break up into smaller groups, Cameron would take a group, I would take a group, the specific children that he and I happened to really forge a relationship with, we really were able to be useful with that. I don't think he's come up in the series yet, but there was one specific child who ran into a lot of behavioral issues in the classroom, and that child in particular, Cameron became quite close to. So a lot of times where he needed to be removed from the room, Cameron was there to go take a walk with him, which helped the teacher, helped the fellow students, and I also helped forge that relationship as well. So I mean, really became jacks of all trades. We went on field trips with them and helped watch the kiddos when we were out and about. So I mean, when we say immersed, we mean immersed.
Yeah, just to add off of that, yeah, like as Hannah mentioned, we were helping to teach, yeah, in those small groups that we worked with. And I think even now, just looking, since now we're in our second year, especially with the students that we were with last year, there was another fourth grade class but now they're combined. So the students we had last year, I feel like we had even more of a better, rapport with them just because they know who we are, they're used to us, and they kind of just have this kind of connection. So I think that those relationships are developing even more in this second year that we've had.
No, I absolutely agree with that. What's been interesting to see too. So we were in, this is on a hands classroom last year, but fifth grade's a little bit different. Fifth grade is the first year that they start actually switching classrooms. So we have double the number of students that we see every single day when we're at the school, and half of them, we know from last year, and half of them we don't. But when we started to be introduced to those new kids in the beginning of the school year, we had those kids from Miss Lenahan's class last year say, they're cool. And one of the young girls who was new to us this year was having an issue one day, and I asked her if she wanted to step aside and talk to me and let me know what was going on, and she was apprehensive. Of course, she doesn't know me, but one of the girls from last year said, "It's okay, you don't have to worry about it. You can trust Miss Hannah."
That's great. And you guys were vetted by the children. That's fantastic. So
Sure.
could you maybe give us an idea of what the school and the community it serves is like? So, I mean, we get an idea in the some of the articles on how classrooms are arranged, but kind of a demographic of where this school is and what kind of neighborhood it's in.
Cameron, you can take that one. I know you did a lot of research into it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the school is in the West Boulevard neighborhood, around the Lorraine Avenue area. And so yeah, it's off of do you know where Saint Ignatius Antioch Church is, where the Antioch steeple is?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like really, yeah, close to there, just right around the corner. And so yeah, the school serves a lot of students of color, many Black students, many Hispanic students. It's a very, yeah, diverse school, I would say. And so yeah, from the stats that we received this year, it's a quarter of students who are Hispanic, and then I'd have to double check on the percentage of Black students, but it definitely does have a very diverse element. I think one of the things that is cool for this year, they're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month for the first time, like just overall, just because of how much their Hispanic population is growing, and their English language learners. Most of the English language learners there are Hispanic. So that's really something cool to see, just because, and a lot of staff members too are Hispanic. So that's something I think that's really cool to see, just that they're doing and helping celebrate and acknowledge.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how one of the tensions I've seen in the articles is kind of this, how the school functions versus kind of how the kids are, the home lives of some of these children are really harrowing. And, we already talked about the police showing up and arresting the parents, but how much do you think, maybe you could just speak about that, kind of that dichotomy between the school environment and the home environment, and what you've seen in that relationship.
Well, I think that to an extent, they kind of go hand in hand. The school is there, for the children to learn, to educate them, to get them ready for high school and for the rest of their lives. But CMSD and the staff and the educators within it have done so much work in making sure that the programs and the services that they offer go beyond just that education, and actually going into supporting and building these young humans to be adults as a whole. So of course, education first and foremost, and there's those components to it. But what you kind of saw in one of the articles from last week that covered the Say Yes to Education program within that, you have the scholarship program, which is just unbelievable. I mean, there's more than 20 years worth of, that scholarship money. So these kids who graduate from the district, who have a desire to continue their education after graduating high school, have the ability to do that. But then in addition to that, the other side of that Say Yes Cleveland program is the family support specialists that are embedded in each school. And their role is that support, so that other piece of the puzzle. So they're there to help with access to food, legal needs, housing, basic needs, drilling down as low as socks in the winter and deodorant. So I think that's kind of where that overlap happens when it comes to the school life and the home life, is through that programming that the district has put so much work into, to really supporting and being a resource for children even beyond education.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. And I think that like the two stories that kind of led the series, which the homeless child wanted to show you where she used to stay, and then the two whose parents were arrested. Can you kind of give us an overview of what services are embedded in the schools? And I don't know if you know the history of how they got in there, but how they kind of what they do and what services they provide.
Oh my gosh. Well, if we went through every service that was offered at the school and of the district, this is going to be the longest podcast you have ever had, because it really, really is all encompassing. But I think to be as brief as possible, which is not my forte, but they really look at providing services for the whole of the child. So all of those things that I already mentioned, and I think that those family support specialists are, really important resource to highlight. And then, there's multiple other support systems that go into each one of those. The family support specialist does work to help, provide food resources for any families that are experiencing food scarcity. But then you have the food bank coming through and bringing food, on a regular basis. And, it's just, so each one of those things are just covered by so many different resources in themselves. Cameron, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add about the wave mediation. That the social part of the social emotional aspect. So yeah, with that, Miss Latanya Coach, she is not in that role anymore. But she used to do that, where she would help do conflict resolution between different students and help them solve their problems and find a good, healthy way to resolve conflict. So I think that was a real cool aspect of it. And then also what was part of that, we never got to see it up close, but they also do a peer mediation where different students, in the school help other students, resolve their conflicts. And so, yeah, that's just, a real cool way where they can help each other out. So, yeah, that was something, another aspect too. And then another one that the district as a whole brought in at the end of last year. So every school is supposed to be having like a parent ambassador. So yeah, the parent ambassador there, they work with the students, and they just try to like help uplift them as much as possible. It's just like another adult that can be basically a role model. They're not in any sort of formal teaching role, but the parent at whichever school they're at, they have a kid. They're supposed to have a kid that goes to the school. And so yeah, they're helping work with families, helping work with the students, and just overall build good community there.
Well, and I was going to bring up the mediation, because that story, we have a ton of kids in the library every day, and the conflicts they get into are sometimes hilarious and sometimes a little bit, more serious. But some of the things they argue about are pretty funny. But the story that's in the article series, I felt was can you walk us through how that process works with the children?
Yeah, where they're in the midst of the mediation.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So then, so now it's a different person, but yeah, with Miss Coates, she would be very calm. Like I remember when we walked in, she had the like water sounds playing, and she's just overall a very calm person. So she made sure that she was like, hey, you're not going to talk with each other while we're doing this. You're going to air out your grievances to me, and then that's how you're going to hear each other's problems. And so by the end, she was like, hey, can we have like a contract for friendship to try to, mend things over and say, this is what we're not going to do. So between Marshall and Ashley, they were like, okay, well, we're not going to talk about each other's families, or we're not going to be talking about each other's hair or anything like that. And so, they were able to iron that out with the help of Miss Coates. I mean, they are really kind of going at each other throughout the whole year, but after that meeting with her, they really had no other problems, like major issues, for the rest of the year. So I think that that meeting helped a lot between them.
How did they get on the radar of Ms. Coates? Is that her name? Was this
Miss
something?
Coates, yeah.
Was she?
I believe, yeah, Hannah, didn't something, it was just like one day where it was just like something happened and it was like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it had been building a little bit. Just little remarks back and forth. I think at one point, at least one of them was sent to the planning center, which is a whole nother amazingly innovative idea and initiative going on in the schools. But there was one day where there were some comments alluding to what Cameron was talking about their hair and their families, and they were being shouted over the room. So at that point, Miss Lenahan referred them down to mediation, thinking that it was probably time to take advantage of that service.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the questions I've had reading the articles is, how have you guys had any interaction with the parents, or is it mainly what's happening at the school?
Yeah, so quite a bit of interaction with the parents. In Sophia's instance with her aunt, and then with Grace and her mom. I mean, the project from last year is over, and I was just texting with Grace's mom yesterday. So I mean, we like when these relationships are even going beyond the scope of the project, and trying to do as much as we can, and trying to be helpful too. Grace's little sister decided to take up flute this year, so we were actually texting because I have an extra flute. So I'm trying to meet up with them so that I can give her my flute. But yeah, a lot of relationship building with the parents, because that helped with trust. And you need to trust somebody when you're allowing them to spend so much time with your children. We totally understand that, so we were happy to forge those relationships too.
Excellent. I wanted to talk about some of the other programs. What was the one? The seed program, is that one? Yes, plant seeds for students of color. So I think, Cameron, you wrote this. Could you maybe explain to us what that was and what happened there?
Yeah, for sure. So then it wasn't like a formal program, but just basically how the different staff members look out for the students of color. And yeah, I had pulled up the numbers that we received from the administration. So yeah, it was for this year, fall semester, 41% Black students, 25% Hispanic, 32% Caucasian, 2% Asian, 22% English language learners, 19% students with disabilities, 48% female, and then 52% male. So yeah, with the students of color at Almira, it's just a very arching, kind of like a wraparound support with that they have there with Mr. Pardon, with Mr. Beal, with Ms. Rodriguez, and with Mr. Davila as well. Everyone's just kind of looking out for them, making sure that they're staying on the right path, and just kind of uplifting them. As I mentioned in, the story with my personal experience, I saw, kind of like some other, things that happened where, people weren't uplifted and people, were kind of like forgotten about. So it was nice to see at Almira, and it's been nice to see that, students of color there are valued, they are cared about, and because you don't really see that everywhere.
Well, and um, one of the things that I was brought up when I was talking about this series with a friend of mine was that she kind of asked, like, at what point do the schools stop being schools and do they start being social services? Like, how much can a school actually offer? And when I kind of pushed back and said, well, it's the only time we see kids outside of the home, right? I mean, as a society, they all have to come to our schools. So this is where they should be located, right? I don't know if you guys have a take on that, or what, if you felt that what you saw at Elmira took away from the learning experience or enhanced it in a way, or where you think you understand my question or my?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my answer to that would be, there are a lot of programs that are inherent in the school, but at the same time, a lot of these services, what they're doing is they're really serving as a connection point. So, to your point, these kids, they go to school every single day. The educators, the staff can see their needs. So they're able to actually make those connections, connect them to the food bank, connect them to legal resources they might need. So in that sense, it's really not taking away from education at all. It's setting the students up so that their parents, their guardians have access to resources to make it so that they're in an environment where they can learn. They're not, I mean, it's going to be a lot more difficult to learn if you're going to school hungry, if you can't even make it to school, if you don't know what you're moving around all the time because you have housing instability and you don't know, you don't know which, move to a new city and where you're not forging those relationships because transiency is a huge issue. So I really think if anything, it heightens the educational experience because it's removing some barriers. And then B, so much of it is serving as that access to resources. I mean, of course, they serve as the resource themselves with a lot of the programs, but a lot of it is that connection part too.
Yeah, I mean, just going off of that, I mean, I would say like, hey, the school is a part of the community, right? So you look at all these different places in communities, like you look at libraries, you look at gyms, you look at community centers. It's like, hey, these are all different social services to a certain extent because they're all helping bridge community. And like Hannah mentioned with, connecting resources, the school, it's a part of the community and it doesn't have to just be a place where, it's an academic court side of sort of a foothold. So it can be a place where students develop socially. It should be a place where they develop socially and emotionally, and they can help, just become better people, more well-rounded overall. So I guess I would just say, like, I mean, if you really look at the school and, the institution of education, it should have been like, and I mean, it's been like this for a while, but it's becoming more so, but it should have, been more like this in the past where students could get resources. They could, develop more from a social perspective instead of just saying like, you're going to pass reading, you're going to pass math, and you're going to move on into the next phase of life. But school should really be preparing you for life on multiple levels.
Well, I think that's one of the best takeaways I've had from the series is that because school is so much in our public discourse, at least framed in this way, that it is all about test scores, it is all about metrics, it is all about kind of things that we can see and judge a school's performance on. But there's this whole social and economic and racial kind of reality that so many kids live in that is just forgotten or ignored or not spoken about. You know, we talk about teachers' unions, we talk about all the kind of stuff, and the kids kind of get lost in the shuffle somehow. And I think this series has done a fantastic job of recentering children and their lives within the school and how the schools respond to that. So thank you for that. Is there anything else that you guys would want to add? The series is going on for a while now, correct?
Yeah, we've barely scratched the surface of fourth grade. So there's so much more to come. And readers, when it comes to what to expect next, I don't want to give anything away. But those players that we've met already, those specific students, the educators, for me, following them along with their journeys throughout the course of the school year, and a lot happens. There's tough things and there's happy things, but that's also life. So that's the reality of it, and so that's what we're showing. But there's going to be a lot more examples of resilience and the incredible work that the school and the district is doing. I believe coming up here pretty shortly, we'll have a story coming to highlight the planning center that I was talking about before, which is a huge innovative push for the district. There's a planning center in Almira, there's a planning center in every CMSD school, but that feeds into the social and emotional learning as well, where they kind of looked at discipline and, if a kid gets in trouble, really what benefit is coming from giving them out of school suspension, where they're not at school, they can't, learn how to do better and make better decisions. Of course, there are still some situations that happen where suspension is the correct course of action, but the incredible work that's happening in those, and with the the educators that are trained in those rooms that help ask the students, why did you make that decision? How can you make a better decision in the future? How can you manage those emotions? And it's really neat. So all of that is still yet to come, and it's going to be, I'm really excited for more of it to come out and hear what everyone thinks. And we're already back for fifth grade, so we're getting those story lists together, and it's going to be another great year.
Yeah, just to add to that, as Hannah mentioned, with the social emotional aspects, I think that's really like the hallmark of the school, just because of, me personally, I've never really like walked into a school where they like really felt like a family. You have Miss Linehan, she's fourth grade, but then right across the hall, she gets to see her fifth grade students. So it's just like, you still have those connections and things of that nature. So I think that, seeing those family aspects is going to be what readers kind of really connect with coming forward here in the next few weeks with the fourth grade content.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to everything that's coming out. I also am glad that you guys didn't get stuck in middle school. they let you, because the middle school was terrible.
Yeah.
And the little guys who come into the library at middle school are hellraisers. They're the ones who are fantastic.
Yeah, fourth grade's great. That's I've been around kids my whole life. That's definitely the most time I've ever spent with fourth graders, and it's a really fun age, and it's fun to watch that transition during fourth grade, because it's definitely fifth grade is very different.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch. It is. Well, thank you for your work and your time here, and yeah, so where can we find you if people want to look up the series or follow you guys individually? Yeah, so all of the stories for the series can be found at cleveland.com/promise.
So that's the landing page for it. So you can go back there and check. I think at least for a while, there'll be 2 stories a week publishing there on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then in the paper at a different point during the week. And then I know I'm on, I would say Twitter is probably the best way to contact us directly. My handle is just Hannah Drown, nice and easy.
And then my handle for Twitter is at Cameron Fields _. And then, yeah, I believe, yeah, with the paper, it's Sundays that the content is there.
Sundays and Wednesdays, yeah.
So, so you can pick it up at like CVS, Walgreens, yeah, places like that.
The library.
The library, yep, that's true as well, for sure.